I find it really fascinating how preferences change over time. For example, not too long ago, we would have never considered a Panama Canal cruise. My wife kept saying, "We are too young," and it just didn't look that interesting. We've been on dozens of cruises from the Caribbean to the west coast of the United States and up to Alaska, over to Iceland, Scotland, Norway, into the Baltic, and a month's worth of cruising the Mediterranean. But we have never really been interested in the Panama Canal. But now our kids are out of the house and it's kind of on our radar. Welcome to This is the Cruise. I'm Clint, and this is the channel where we look at upcoming cruise itineraries and try to find out if this is the cruise for you. My family uses cruising as one way for us to explore this amazing planet. And for us, it's really important that we maximize the itinerary. It's really the purpose of this channel, the itineraries. With the help of a professor of statistics at NYU and a computer scientist, I created a scoring rubric and application that attempts to take out as much of the bias as possible. The score includes 10 different factors for each destination that matter most to cruisers, and then 5 additional facets for each itinerary when combined as a whole. It's all run through an algorithm creating a Clint's Cruisability score with a max score of 100. Check out my scoring video if you want to know more, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So the catalyst for this video was what I presented in my last video. A friend wanted to cruise to the Panama Canal, but she had some very specific criteria in what she wanted, including visiting all 3 ABC islands. I found a couple of options that worked for her, but I started thinking, maybe we should start considering a Panama Canal cruise ourselves. If we wanted to do Panama, what would we pick? So I started my research and I thought maybe y'all would be interested in seeing how I go about finding the cruise for me. We'll start at the very beginning where I begin to see what's out there and how I filter it all down. Then we'll move into selecting a few and come up with a rating. I'm not just doing this for show, though. This is very similar to how we picked our Iceland cruise, including an analysis and comparison of the destinations. If you're looking at a Panama cruise, you might just find one that's right for you. And with that, I guess we should get started. Okay, so where do I start? There are a lot of ways I find out about cruises. Sometimes it's someone recommending something. Other times I think, I wonder if I can cruise there. Sometimes it's a flyer in the mail, an email, all of the things. Other times it's one of my favorite YouTubers doing a review of their cruise or giving tips. Speaking of, let me pause here and give credit to Gary Bembridge's Tips for Travelers channel. For me, I find his taste and cruise vibe compatible with our style of cruising. I'd say if you haven't checked out his channel, you should. But who are we kidding? He's like the godfather of YouTube cruise channels, and it's well deserved, and I really appreciate and learn a ton from him. I'm going to reference some of his tips as we go along. The first tip, unlike my friend from my previous video, I want to transverse the entire canal. That wasn't important to her, but it is to us. I know we'll start in the east or west and use the canal to end up on the other side. I also know, thanks to Gary, that I'd like to get in the original smaller canal, so that restricts the ships available. We'll get into that in a bit. Once I have a destination or region in mind and an idea of what I'd like to experience, I usually turn to cruisecritic.com to start some research. I'll also note that we are relatively loyal to a few lines, but I still cross-reference on cruisecritic.com. Maybe there's a great deal out there, something that we weren't really expecting. I mean, maybe, but if I never look, I'll never see it. I feel like there's some kind of life motto in there somewhere about not limiting your vision and being open to new experiences. Anyway, the point is I start really broad. Here, I'll select my destination. Sometimes what I'm looking for isn't here, but I'll try to get into the general area to get something going. Let's select Panama Canal and Central America. I'm going to leave the departure port open because maybe there will be a surprise in there, and I don't want to limit myself just yet. On to the dates. This is the one I obviously can't help you with. I had a great conversation on my channel with a teacher looking for Norway cruises. They can only go during school breaks. For me, I just got the kids out of the house, so we're a bit more flexible. In fact, this is a good time for me to quickly mention the three main deciding factors when picking a cruise itinerary. I think this is generally true for everyone, and I've brought it up before, but I think it's worth repeating here. The first is your own timing. Your schedule is your schedule, and that is possibly the biggest factor. Not every itinerary is available and works for your schedule. If you work a lot during the Northern Hemisphere summer, then Alaskan cruises are going to be more of a challenge. Cruises through the Panama Canal are difficult as well because they're usually repositioning cruises to get ready for a particular season. Next is budget. Cruising can be a very good value. It can also be really expensive. We tend to book interior rooms so we can cruise more often. Some people really feel they can't be in an inside room without a window or balcony. If you don't have the budget for it and feel you need to be in a balcony, then it's not for you. Don't break the bank. There are other ways to see the world, but I'd consider reframing the perspective. This is what I do. I ask myself this question. Would I rather cruise to the Caribbean in an interior room or find some other way to visit the Caribbean? If I can't afford the other way, is an interior room okay? Or would I rather not go at all? Would I rather cruise to Norway in an interior room or find some other way to visit Norway? If I can't afford that other way, is an interior room okay? Or would I rather not go at all? So ask yourself, would you rather cruise to Alaska in an interior room or visit Alaska some other way? If you can't afford that other way, is an interior room okay? Or would you rather not go at all? I could go on, but this just helps us rethink this. You may need to do a little bit more research, and you may find out that an interior room is your best option. I try to have a posture of gratitude, thankful that I'm even able to go. For me, it's better than not going at all. Finally, who are you traveling with? I think this is second nature, right? If you're traveling with friends or family, they're going to have opinions and varying levels of availability and their own budget and their own considerations. And this will affect your decision. I have a really good friend who's a solo cruiser, and he doesn't worry about this at all. And he likes to point it out to me. He's kind of like, I can cruise whenever I want. It's good for him. Back to the topic at hand. We do have a big cruise plan in 2026 that's going to use a lot of my PTO. So for Panama Canal research, I'm going to choose all of 2026 and all of 2027 to give me some options. I'm okay with too much stuff coming back in the results right now. Let's not limit our options just yet. So we'll click search. All right, there's a lot of options here. We're going to filter some of these down. We want to be on a Panamax ship. Again, thanks, Gary. I haven't found an official list, but I did find a few places that list options, so we'll do something a tiny bit risky and assume the internet is accurate. I'll link to the two pages I found in the description below. They aren't exactly the same, so we'll use our best judgment. It's really the size of the ship that we need to pay attention to. And as in life, remember, nothing is certain, but generally speaking, big ships, including container ships, need to use the big canal, so smaller ships default to the smaller canal. So let's start by adjusting the filters here. Cruise Critic defaults to popular cruises first. That's fine. I like order, so I'm going to sort by date first. It's just easier for me to have the date be an anchor so I know what I'm looking at and what I need to come back to. I may change that to price or rating later as the list gets smaller. Let's open up the All Filters panel so we can get right to the ships first. Again, I'm not concerned about departure point because I don't want to limit us, and some of these are not what I'm expecting already. We'll leave the cruise line open at this point too. One thing I do love about Cruise Critic is it shows the lowest price that they know of next to your selection. I see some options that likely won't make the cut, of course, but I'm not going to eliminate these on price just yet. Let's get to the ships. Okay, here's the ship section. Click See All, and let's use our Panamax ship list for reference. Because these aren't in alphabetical order, it's a little bit more tedious than it should be. As I check these off, I may need to double check the ship size. For this, I often use cruisemapper.com. It's easy and gives you some great information about the ship. Plus, it's always fun to see where the ship is right now. For example, let's look up a couple of Holland America ships as a reference. Our Panamax ship list doesn't reference Koenigsdam. I've cruised a lot on this ship. It's not a mega ship, but it is their largest class of ship. Koenigsdam is just under 100,000 tons, its length is 974 feet, and its beam width is 112 feet. If I'm understanding the size restrictions for a Panamax ship, it needs to be less than 965 feet long and 106 feet wide. So close, Koenigsdam. That's 9 feet too long and only 6 feet too wide. These margins are tight. Okay, she's out, and so is her sister ship Rotterdam. My point is, if you see a ship you're interested in, double check the size. A few of these ships turned out to be bigger than I remember them being. How about Eurodam? I've been on her a few times and she feels about the same size to me as Rotterdam. All right, she's 935 feet long and 105 feet wide. She sneaks right in by a foot. That's like 6 inches a side, though I recognize there's a little bit more margin built in, but 6 inches? It's pretty impressive. I'll start eliminating some of these based on price too. I'm going to put a soft limit of around $3,000 a person. That's above our budget, but if I see something I really like, there may be other deals available and I want to know about them. Okay, we've knocked it down by quite a bit, but it's still too many. Let's go back to our friend Gary. He mentions how important it is to have great viewing areas around the ship. As far as rooms go, only balcony rooms with a corner wraparound balcony are going to help you here, but that only gets you half of what you could see, and those rooms are priced at a premium. This whole exercise is trickier because it can be harder to tell what a ship has available for viewing areas. Searching Cruise Critic forums is helpful, but you do have to wade through a lot of information. One thing I know is that Holland America opens the bows of their ships, and they have great wraparound promenades that we use as interior room people for great views. So all of their ships that are the right size are going to be on this list. But now I need to dig in a little deeper to see if I need to eliminate any of the other ships. Okay, after looking around a bit, checking out the ships and available viewing options, I got it down to around 20 options. Now we're going to start to eliminate actually based on price and dates. Some of these are just too long for us. For example, the MSC itinerary on Poesia is 18 days. It sails from Miami to Seattle. You could shorten this by getting off in San Diego, making it just 13 days. That potentially could work. One last bit of research I do is on the cruise line's website. We rarely book directly through the cruise line, though you could use my referral link in the description below to book directly through Holland America. I wouldn't complain about that. I did find something really interesting while cross-referencing on a cruise line website, and that was because I didn't eliminate things too quickly. So stay tuned for that. Okay, last step. We're almost there. With our list of potentials, I begin to analyze the destinations. This is where my platform comes in really handy, but you can do this however you'd like. For a recent cruise to Iceland, I created a spreadsheet with a matrix of all the destinations. Then I was able to check off the places that we'd already been to and see which itineraries offered us the best opportunity for new exploration. That exercise is what inspired this channel. Maybe you already know where you want to go and don't need a matrix, but if you're comparing different itineraries, you might find it helpful. So once we've decided where we really want to visit, we should get the results down to just a few options, maybe even one. So let's focus on those. This sounds like a lot of work, right? I mean, I don't know. It might be for you. For me, I really enjoy it. And you're still watching, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. As a general rule, I am more interested in some of the less visited places where cruise ships tend to overlook. I've also not been to anywhere in South America yet, so I'd like to make that happen if possible. Many of these cruises stop in Cartagena, Colombia, so that's great. I've never been there, and it looks like there's a lot of opportunity. My top 5 rankings are, in order, Holland America at number 1, Azamara comes in second and third, and then Celebrity at number 4, followed by Holland America again at 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then Carnival takes a spot at number 10, though viewing areas on that ship were more limited. So let's start with that Celebrity cruise. It's on Celebrity Summit. I've actually been on that ship, and I can say it's not great for viewing the canal everywhere. The Sky Lounge feels a little too cramped for me and is kind of cut off on one side. You could get some good views in the aft at the Sunset Bar though, and they do have a promenade that you could check out, but it doesn't wrap all the way around the ship. It does tick most of the boxes, though. This is the 17 nights Panama Canal eastbound, departing on October 1st, 2026 from LA, and visits Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Puerto Quetzal, Guatemala, Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, Cartagena, Colombia, Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and Georgetown, Grand Cayman, before ending in Tampa. LA and Tampa are a bit unusual places to begin and end, so that's kind of nice too. Also, I'm not really going to get into the travel advisories for any of these destinations looking at you, Jamaica, but I will mention that safety is a factor in my scoring. This one gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 76.65. Next, we have at number 3 an Azamara itinerary that's 18 days. For me, as I mentioned earlier, this one is stretching the time we could be gone, as well as being outside of our budget, but I did want to talk about it. Because I kept it on the list, I found a couple of other options I wouldn't have even thought about. So, real quick, this one sails on Azamara Quest and leaves from Miami December 18th, 2026. It arrives in San Francisco January 5th, 2027. Interestingly, this ends up being a holiday cruise and, it is priced accordingly. But it does mean that if you're employed like me, you do go over the holidays and may not need as much time off. You could also take your family on this cruise, albeit it's pretty expensive. This itinerary gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 79.22. It looks nice, but it's definitely outside of our budget, and I likely couldn't take the time off. But maybe this is the cruise for you. Let me know in the comments below. Remember when we were first starting our search and I said, don't limit yourself though? We typically cruise premium lines and mainstream lines. If I based our selection simply on assumptions, which lines we assumed we could afford and where we assumed the start or end destination would be, then I wouldn't have stumbled on this very intriguing itinerary. When researching that Azamara cruise on azamara.com, I selected the standard Panama Canal filter and my dates, but this time I sorted by price. I mean, you never know, right? Wait, there's an 11-night Panama Canal cruise that visits 7 countries, 9 ports, and is within our stretch budget. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, it leaves from Panama City. I hadn't even thought about cruises that didn't start in the US, and that's my bad. Well, how much is it to fly there though? Got to think about that, right? A quick look at Google Flights, and we're looking at around $250 per person. That's actually really good for a one-way flight. The dates for the flights don't quite go out far enough to match with the cruise, but at least we have an idea of the cost, and those flights are on Delta, so this should work. This one sails on Azamara Quest and leaves on March 15th, 2026 from Puerto Amador, which is the cruise port for Panama City. Then she cruises through the canal and continues with stops in Cartagena, Santa Marta, Colombia, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, then Cabo Rojos, Pedernales, sorry for the pronunciation, in the Dominican Republic, and finally ends in Miami. I was so surprised by this itinerary because it actually met the criteria that my friend had. When I saw it, I immediately sent it to my friend and said, here's another one you should consider. She replied back right away and said, this is excellent. This is exactly what I wanted. And I get to cruise the entire canal. So that's pretty great. This one gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 65.43. That is the lowest score in our itinerary list though. Some of that's due to the length, and because the amount of sea days to port day ratio is really too low. And that's because it takes a while to get up to Miami. They could have had another stop in there that would have brought the score up, but it is a consideration. All right, while I'm here though, let me just quick see if Azamara has anything else. Okay, it jumps up in price pretty quickly. Where does this 15-night tapestry voyage go, though? I mean, it's out of our budget, but... All right, it leaves from Miami, goes through the canal, and then instead of hanging a right towards Alaska, it goes left towards South America. This could be a bucket list kind of cruise, something to keep in my back pocket for an extra special occasion. It's on Azamara Onward and departs January 6th, 2026. It first stops in Progreso, Yucatan, and then goes to Bocas del Toro, Colon Island in Panama. This is a rare stop for a cruise line. Then it goes through the canal to Puerto Amador for a visit to Panama City. This is an overnight, by the way, so you have 2 days there. 2 days. Then it goes to Manta, followed by a city in Ecuador that I can't pronounce, followed by Salaverry, and ending with an overnight in Callao, Peru. I mean, Wow, this looks awesome. It gets a Clint's cruisability score of 80.64. There is one more itinerary I want to mention, and it may be just the one. But first, the obligatory pause. If I have helped you out at all, you can return the favor. The easiest thing to do is to like the video and subscribe. That's free, it's easy, and thank you very much for that. If you want to help out even more, feel free to leave a tip or buy me a cup of coffee using the safe and secure link in the description below. It's sort of like we sat down at your favorite coffee joint and just talked about cruises, something I love to do. Or you can become a member of the channel. Click the join button, and for only $1 a month, you get access to all of these extra bonuses, plus access to my application. It's still in beta, but I'm happy to give you behind the scenes look at the data. And of course, you can cruise in style with some merch from my store. Just click the shop button to take a look. So, who you're traveling with matters, the dates matter, and of course, the cost. Those are the three biggest considerations when picking a cruise, right? Then it's the itinerary. So, let's see where we're at with the cost. Here, we see that the top scoring itinerary is also one of the least expensive. The other ones that are about this price are also from the same cruise line, and that is Holland America. Our number one scoring itinerary is the 15-day Panama Canal with History Channel on Holland America's Zuiderdam. This itinerary was created in collaboration with the History Channel, which is really cool and goes to some lesser visited places. Also, something I look for. The exclusive nature of this itinerary does bump the score up just a touch, making it competitive with the types of itineraries that Azamara offers. This one leaves from Miami on January 31st, 2026, then visits Cartagena, Colombia, transverses the canal, then goes to Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, and then it goes to a place in El Salvador that I can't pronounce, and then it goes to a place in Guadalajara that I really can't pronounce, and another place, and then Puerto Vallarta and Cabo San Lucas, all in Mexico, before making its way up to San Diego. I would say for most of these destinations, I would be booking excursions through the ship, partly due to some of the safety. I don't want to do a ton of exploration on my own. I want to book through the cruise line. And since it's in collaboration with the History Channel, some of what they have on offer is a bit more enriching than other excursions you would typically have available. This gets a highly competitive Clint's cruisability score of 81. And I have to hand it to Holland America. Well done. I didn't really want to go through all of these itineraries that came back. It just would take way too long. This video is already long enough. Thanks for sticking with me. But I do want to quickly point out that except for the Holland America itinerary I mentioned and the Azamara sailings, these all score about the same. Celebrity's top scoring sailing is 76.65. It's the one I mentioned earlier. And the second lowest score is another one I could have mentioned, Royal Caribbean's 10-night Serenade of the Seas sailing. It leaves from Cologne in Panama and gets a Clint's cruisability score of 68.32. That's an interesting one as well, and it scores higher than the Azamara 11 night. It's a much better itinerary value, but the ship isn't as great for viewing the Panama Canal. There's just so many options and choices here. It's tough to get into all of them. So feel free to ask me if I have a score on a sailing you're interested in. I'll be happy to take a look. Or you could join the channel and I'll give you access to the data directly. The big question I have to ask myself now is, would I go on any of these? Have our preferences changed enough to explore this part of the world? Well, I can't make that decision alone because who I travel with matters more to me than anything. And with that, stay happy, stay healthy, stay cruising.